Just in case you thought Joe Biden tripping up the stairs 3 times was the saddest thing you were going to see today, Canadian father jailed after publicly objecting to 14-year-old daughter's gender transition and referring to her with female pronouns. He's in jail because he referred to his daughter as his daughter. Oh, it gets even worse from there. Of course, well, this comes out of British Columbia as well, and that's why... Oh, I just wish it would fall off into the sea just like California. In a tragic case, a man in Canada was jailed for referring to his biological female child as daughter. Robert Hoogland, the father of a teenage girl, has been jailed by a Canadian court for calling his biological female child his daughter and referring to her with the pronouns she and her. Hoogland was found in contempt of court. At the heart of Hoogland's miniseries is a gender non-conforming 14-year-old biological female who identifies as transgendered and prefers to use male pronouns. Why would she come up with this? Well, because she's in the public school system, of course, and has a destructive force in her life in the form of a psychologist who we'll get to very shortly. In December 2020, Hoogland was forced to collude to conform to his daughter's gender transitioning and told him to not call his biological female child his daughter. Because here in Canada, here's another wonderful thing you probably didn't know and probably felt better about not knowing, but we're gonna spread the wealth, I suppose. You are not allowed to stop your child, who is not allowed to vote, not allowed to drink, not allowed to smoke, not allowed to do simple things like at 14 years old, drive a vehicle by themselves. But they can 100% accept puberty blockers. They can commit irreversible damage to themselves because gender diversity. In response, Hoogland made a charter challenge engaging his right to free speech. Yeah, that's a myth here in Canada. In his defense, Hoogland claimed that he started noticing differences in behavior of his daughter when she said she was in the 6th grade and had increasingly begun to behave more like a tomboy. Yeah, probably a phase. The girl was spending most of her time with boys her age and was constantly landing herself in trouble. A phase. She's in the 6th fucking grade. And when she came in grade 7, she noticed she cut off her long hair and started wearing a toupee. Well, her kid's an asshole. He said she developed intense crushes on 2 male teachers and made a suicide attempt. She's a 14-year-old girl. What kind of a suicide attempt? Oh my god, I went to school with so many fucking emo kids because, well, it was the style at the time. Black t-shirts, black dykey haircuts, and fucking whatever across the street, not down the road, but whatever. It happened all the time. And nobody was transitioning. Went to school with a couple of gay kids, but other than that, nobody was fucking thinking, you know what would be a lot better? Changing this vag for a penis. I think that'd be a fucking winning decision. Dumbasses. Hoogland even consulted with his school faculties in hopes of improving some of her bad habits, and that's where his problems started. According to Hoogland, his daughter started referring to herself as a male after watching the pro-transgender film Handsome and Majestic at school. Propaganda in your schools. Why do you think, I think it's the baby boomer generation has a 0.2% transgender rate, and either Zoomers or Gen Z, I think it might be the same thing. I could give a fuck what generational names are. Their rate of transgenderism is 1.8%. Do you think that has something to do with it? The fact that they're getting propagandized in school? Hoogland was aghast when his daughter accosted him and told him that she would like to enroll in the 7th grade under a male name rather than her own. No. Hoogland was indignant of the school officials for backing his daughter's demand and what to him seemed like a falsehood. He expressed his displeasure with the police, but to no avail. To his dismay, Hoogland later discovered that it was the school that started to pressure the girl to change her gender. Shock and horror. The school counselor with whom he had met had raised his concerns about his daughter. He had actually made the change in the yearbook and encouraged the girl to embrace a male identity. These assholes should be lined up and introduced to the wonderful worlds of a piranha tank. According to the British Columbia Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Regulation, another board that should be put in front of a firing squad. The child's parents were not informed of the changes. I hate Canada. I hate Canada a lot sometimes. Allowing her to use a male-only bathroom. for a kid going through regular childhood shit. In fact, Hoogland accused the school of socially transitioning the biologically female child on its own initiative with the input of gender ideologue psychologist Dr. Wallace Wong. This motherfucker should be thrown... I don't even think throwing him in jail's an appropriate punishment for him. He has several hundred kids in his employ, and as you can see here, even back as late as April of 2019, gender therapy doctor admits to advising kids to fake being suicidal to get transgender treatments. Who else is shocked by this? Earlier this year, I noted, this is from Jonathan Van Maren. Earlier this year, I noted that transgender activists were going to use data on suicide rates in the transgender community to go after schools they consider insufficiently supportive of their ideological agenda, despite the fact that there is no evidence that physical transition actually reduces suicidal ideation. As it turns out, there are some medical quacks willing to go a little bit further in their crusade to assist young children in the transition process, including a psychologist from British Colombian, Canada. Dr. Wallace Wong is facing calls for an inquiry into the conduct of his practice on February 28th. Wong spoke in an event hosted by the Vancouver Public Library. God, I wish Kim would just nuke Vancouver already. In a tape that of the event obtained by the Canadian pro-family group Culture Guard, Wong is heard proudly describing the scope of his children-only gender therapy oh my god. I hope he ends up in jail, and I hope he has a rather avarice cellmate with him. Noting that his youngest client is not yet 3 years old, and that he has 501 orphans and foster kids in his local practice. If true, this indicates Wong has likely used his relationship with the BC Ministry of Children and Family to diagnose more than 10 to 20% of local children in government care as needing his gender therapy, according to Culture Guard President Kari Simpson. His practice began in 2010 with just 4 clients at the ministry, but in the course of 9 years, there has much of an enormous surge of need with a need within the population that has now more than 500 kids. This was in 2019, and it's only gone above and beyond this. Wong said a suicide threat was an effective means of accomplishing this goal. While Wong framed the matter as the government's fault and explained to his audience that it is up to advocates to change the situation, his message could not have been lost on anyone present. Using suicide threats to get what you want, huh? Well, what else, if you guys remember, did she say? Oh, she started to identify as a tomboy. She said that she was having crushes on 2 male teachers there, and made a suicide attempt. Weird. And she's in the employ of Dr. Wallace Wong. And now her father's in jail for not referring to her as a him. Who could have saw that coming as well? This guy right here, Jordan Peterson. Bill C-16, 2016. Enshrining that you cannot misgender a transgender person. Making it so you would be put in front of the Human Rights Tribunal, which is another abomination, that you will either be fined or imprisoned. And this guy, because he's trying to do what's best for his family and not for some asshole, not for some ideologue, some sick, twisted individual, is facing jail time. This is disgusting. This is disturbing. And nobody's going to know about this. Because remember, in Canada, diversity is our greatest strength. Sometimes I think the apocalypse is going to be too kind to Canada. Because as much as I hope, and maybe being insulated in what I perceive as being a rather conservative area, the rest of the country is swiftly going down the ideological hole. And this right here is just a warning. This is a shot across the bow, because those gendered pronouns, oh yeah, they're working their way into speech laws. You bet your ass Biden's administration is going to try his fucking hardest. It's already in New York. Landlords are not allowed to misgender their tenants there. And if you think that's just going to stay in the little slow cooker of liberal ideas like New York, you're sadly mistaken. So yeah, not a whole lot of good news coming out of today, but perhaps we got to dig up an old story, because some new developments have been made about it, and it could be good because it's trying to hold these radical motherfuckers accountable. And if I got to talk about this story anymore, I am I'm going to consider transitioning to being a Kurt Cobain imposter, and you know what that entails. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.